After 45, three things you eat every single day are quietly destroying your cells from the inside out. Not junk food, not fast food, things most people consider healthy. And the terrifying part is that by the time you feel it, the damage has already been building for years. But here is what nobody is telling you. There are also three foods that can actually reverse this process, rebuilding the cellular machinery your body is losing right now. Stay with me, because the number one rejuvenating food I will reveal today contains a compound so powerful that a clinical study found it restored cellular energy production by up to 40% in adults over 50. And yet, almost no one knows about it. I am Dr. Christopher Hayes, a physician specialized in senior health with over 15 years of dedicated clinical experience. I have worked with thousands of men and women over 45, 55, 65, and beyond, and I can tell you that the difference between those who age gracefully and those who deteriorate quickly often comes down not to genetics, not to medications, but to what they put in their mouths every single morning and evening. What I'm about to share goes against much of what the mainstream nutrition world has been saying for decades, but I have seen it with my own eyes, patient after patient, and I refuse to stay silent any longer. If this information seems valuable to you, go ahead and hit that like button right now. It helps more people just like you find this information when they need it most. Now, here is what is happening inside your body after 45 that you absolutely need to understand. Your cells contain tiny powerhouses called mitochondria. They generate the energy that keeps your heart beating, your brain thinking, and your muscles moving. After 45, mitochondrial function begins to decline. Research published in the journal Cell Metabolism found that mitochondrial energy output can drop by nearly 35% between the ages of 45 and 70. But here is the part that should concern you deeply. Certain foods dramatically accelerate this decline. They trigger something called chronic low-grade inflammation, a silent fire burning inside your body right now that you cannot feel, but that is aging your tissues, your joints, your arteries, and your brain at an accelerated pace. At the same time, certain other foods contain compounds that actually stimulate something called mitogenesis, which is the creation of new, healthy mitochondria. They also activate a cellular cleanup process called autophagy, where your body removes damaged cell parts and regenerates new ones. It is essentially your body's internal anti-aging mechanism, and the foods that trigger it may surprise you, so let us get into it. We will start with the three biggest dietary mistakes, the ones that are accelerating your biological age right now, and then I will show you the three foods that begin to reverse that damage. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. Are you over 45 and already noticing signs like fatigue, joint stiffness, slower recovery, or brain fog? Type yes in the comments below. And if you are watching this preventatively, still in good shape but wanting to stay that way, type prevention. I read every single comment, and your responses help others feel less alone. Dietary mistake number 3, eating too much ultra-processed vegetable oil. This one is hiding in almost every kitchen in America, and most people have no idea it is one of the most aging substances they consume daily. I am talking about canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower oil. These are marketed as heart-healthy alternatives to saturated fats, but the science tells a very different story. Here is what happens inside your body when you consume these oils regularly. They are extraordinarily high in omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. A diet heavy in omega-6 fats shifts the body into a pro-inflammatory state by displacing omega-3 fats in cell membranes. According to research from the University of California, San Diego, the modern Western diet has an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of approximately 15 to 1 or even 20 to 1. Our ancestors evolved with a ratio closer to 2 to 1. This imbalance directly amplifies the inflammatory signaling pathways that accelerate cellular aging. But there is something even more alarming. These oils are highly unstable. When heated, they oxidize rapidly, producing toxic compounds called aldehydes. A study published in the journal Food Chemistry found that cooking with vegetable oils produced aldehydes at levels up to 200 times higher than safety guidelines permit. These aldehydes attack mitochondrial membranes, impairing the energy production process we talked about earlier. The result over years of daily consumption: accelerated aging in your arteries, your joints, your skin, and your brain. Research in the journal Nutrients found that high vegetable oil consumption was independently associated with increased biomarkers of oxidative stress and systemic inflammation in adults over 50. The fix is simple. Replace these oils with extra virgin olive oil for low-heat cooking and dressings, and use avocado oil for higher-heat cooking. Both have very different fat profiles that support rather than undermine cellular health. I remember Patricia, a 67-year-old retired teacher from Atlanta. She came to see me complaining of persistent joint pain in her knees and hips, fatigue that never seemed to lift no matter how much she slept, and what she described as a mental fog that was affecting her ability to read and concentrate. She had always prided herself on eating healthily, using what she called a light cooking spray made from canola oil on everything, multiple times a day. I asked her to make one change: replace the canola oil with extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil entirely. Nothing else. No other dietary changes. 6 weeks later, she came back to my office. She told me, "Doctor, I honestly did not expect anything to change, but my knees feel better than they have in 2 years. And the fog in my head, it has lifted. I feel like myself again." This was not a miracle. This was inflammation starting to subside when the fuel feeding it was removed. And you can experience exactly the same thing. Dietary mistake number 2: relying on refined carbohydrates as your primary energy source. This is the mistake that is quietly destroying the most people over 45, and it is deeply embedded in what most people consider a normal, even healthy diet. White bread, white rice, regular pasta, most breakfast cereals, crackers, and anything made with refined flour. These foods cause a rapid spike in blood glucose, followed by a rapid crash. And it is not just about blood sugar in the diabetes sense. Here is what chronic glucose spikes actually do to your aging body. First, they trigger a process called glycation. When blood sugar spikes repeatedly, glucose molecules attach to proteins and fats throughout your body, forming something called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These AGEs damage collagen in your skin, the proteins in your arteries, and the nerve fibers in your brain. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that even mildly elevated blood sugar levels, not diabetic but just above optimal, were independently associated with a 23% increased risk of dementia. Second, these blood sugar spikes drive chronic insulin elevation. Over time, cells become less responsive to insulin, a condition called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is now understood to be one of the core metabolic drivers of accelerated aging, linked not only to type 2 diabetes, but to heart disease, Alzheimer's disease, and certain cancers. Third, these spikes directly suppress mitochondrial function. Research from the Salk Institute found that high glucose environments reduce the expression of key genes responsible for mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning your cells make fewer new healthy mitochondria. The very powerhouses you need to age well are being shut down by repeated sugar spikes. After 45, your insulin sensitivity is naturally declining. That means the same amount of carbohydrates that your body handled well at 30 now creates a greater metabolic burden. The solution is not to eliminate carbohydrates entirely, but to make a fundamental shift toward complex fiber-rich carbohydrates, sweet potatoes instead of white potatoes, legumes instead of white rice, whole grain options, genuine whole grains instead of refined flour. This single shift, consistently applied, can reduce your post-meal glucose spikes by up to 45%, according to research from the journal Diabetes Care. And now, dietary mistake number 1, the most aging dietary habit in America. And this one might genuinely shock you: consuming sugar-sweetened beverages daily, including what most people think of as healthy drinks. I am not just talking about soda, I am talking about fruit juice. Yes, even orange juice, apple juice, and the green juices marketed as superfoods. I am talking about sweetened coffees, flavored waters with sugar, sports drinks, and sweetened teas. Any beverage where sugar arrives without the fiber to slow its absorption is causing rapid and severe glucose spikes. Studies show that liquid sugar causes more aggressive insulin and glucose responses than even the same amount of sugar consumed in solid food form, because it bypasses the digestive slowing that fiber normally provides. But here is the devastating specific finding. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition tracked adults over 45 for 10 years and found that those who consumed one or more sugar-sweetened beverages per day had significantly shorter telomeres than those who did not. Telomeres are the protective caps at the ends of your DNA strands. Think of them like the plastic tips on shoelaces. When they wear down, the entire DNA strand becomes vulnerable. Short telomeres are one of the most reliable biological markers of cellular aging. The researchers found that daily consumption of a single 20-ounce soda was associated with a biological aging effect equivalent to approximately 4.6 additional years of cellular age. And here is what terrifies me most. People replace soda with juice, believing they are making a healthy choice, and the glycemic impact is nearly identical. A glass of orange juice without the fruit fiber delivers the same glucose hit as a can of soda. The difference in telomere damage is negligible. The solution is straightforward. Replace all sweetened beverages with water, sparkling water, unsweetened herbal tea, or black coffee. It is that simple, and it can be one of the most powerful anti-aging interventions you make this year. If you are finding this helpful so far, I need to ask you for 2 quick things. First, please subscribe to this channel. My mission is to bring you clear, research-backed health information specifically designed for adults over 40 and 50 and 60 without the noise, the confusion, or the pharmaceutical agenda. Second, please share this video with someone you care about: a parent, a sibling, a friend. A simple click could change the trajectory of their health. Now let us shift to the extraordinary side, the three foods that actively rejuvenate your body after 45. Rejuvenating food number 3, blueberries. These small dark fruits are one of the most scientifically studied foods for anti-aging in the world, and the research is extraordinary. Blueberries are exceptionally rich in compounds called anthocyanins, the pigments that give them their deep blue-purple color. These anthocyanins are among the most potent activators of a cellular signaling pathway called NRF2. Think of NRF2 as the master switch for your body's internal antioxidant system. When it is activated, your cells produce their own protective enzymes, including glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase. These are your body's most powerful defenses against oxidative stress, which is one of the primary drivers of cellular aging. A landmark study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry found that adults over 60 who consumed 1 cup of blueberries daily for 12 weeks showed measurable improvements in motor function, short-term memory, and processing speed. But the mitochondrial benefits are equally remarkable. Research published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience found that blueberry supplementation increased mitochondrial biogenesis markers by 21% in older adults, meaning the body was actually creating more new, functional mitochondria. Blueberries also contain pterostilbene, a compound structurally similar to resveratrol, but significantly more bioavailable. Pterostilbene activates sirtuins, a family of proteins sometimes called longevity genes that regulate cellular stress responses, DNA repair, and metabolic efficiency. 1 cup per day, fresh or frozen, both are equally effective. Frozen blueberries are often more nutrient-dense because they are harvested and frozen at peak ripeness. Add them to unsweetened Greek yogurt, oatmeal, or simply eat them on their own. This is one of the easiest, most affordable, and most powerful anti-aging habits you can build. Pro tip most people miss: eat your blueberries with a small amount of healthy fat, a few walnuts, or a spoonful of almond butter. The fat significantly increases the absorption of fat-soluble polyphenols, amplifying the benefits by up to 30% according to research in the journal Molecular Nutrition and Food Research. I want to hear from you right now. Have you already been eating blueberries regularly? Type blueberry in the comments if you have. And if this is new information for you, type starting now. I truly want to know how many of you are already doing something right without realizing how powerful it is. Rejuvenating food number 2, fatty fish, specifically salmon, sardines, and mackerel. If there is one category of food that has the most consistent, replicated, multi-system anti-aging evidence behind it, it is fatty cold water fish. And the primary reason is the omega-3 fatty acids EPA and DHA. Remember the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio imbalance I told you about earlier? Fatty fish is the most direct and powerful way to correct that imbalance. EPA and DHA are structural components of every cell membrane in your body. When your membranes are built with EPA and DHA instead of oxidized vegetable oils, they become more fluid, more permeable, and more functionally efficient. This directly improves how mitochondria operate because the mitochondrial membrane itself is where energy production actually happens. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation found that EPA and DHA supplementation in adults over 50 improved mitochondrial membrane efficiency by 28%. But the anti-inflammatory effects go even deeper. EPA and DHA are direct precursors to powerful anti-inflammatory compounds called resolvins and protectins. Unlike anti-inflammatory medications which simply block inflammatory signals, resolvins and protectins actively resolve inflammation and trigger tissue repair. This distinction is critical. You are not just dampening the fire, you are putting it out and rebuilding what it damaged. A 2021 meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Medical Association analyzing data from over 40,000 participants found that regular fatty fish consumption was associated with a 14% reduction in cardiovascular mortality, a 12% reduction in cognitive decline, and a significant preservation of muscle mass in older adults, something technically called sarcopenia prevention. For sardines specifically, the benefit is even more pronounced because you consume the entire fish, including the small edible bones, providing exceptional bioavailable calcium without the inflammatory downsides of dairy for many people. Aim for 3 to 4 servings of fatty fish per week. Wild-caught salmon, canned sardines packed in water or olive oil, and mackerel are the most accessible and affordable options. I remember William, a 74-year-old retired architect from Seattle. He came to my office after his cardiologist had flagged elevated inflammatory markers and early cognitive concerns at a routine checkup. He was devastated. He had always been active, still walked 4 miles a day, but his diet was almost entirely based on chicken and occasional red meat with very little fish. I suggested a straightforward protocol: replace 2 weekly meals with fatty fish, salmon twice a week, sardines once. Nothing else changed. 3 months later, his follow-up blood work showed his C-reactive protein, the primary marker of systemic inflammation, had dropped by 38%. His cardiologist called it remarkable. But what moved William most was something different. He told me, "Doctor, I have not felt this mentally sharp in years. I am back to sketching again. I thought that part of my life was over." This was not a coincidence. This was his brain finally getting the structural materials it had been starved of for decades. And you can experience exactly the same thing. Rejuvenating food number one, the most powerful anti-aging food available to you right now, and it is almost certainly something you have never considered for this purpose. Fermented foods, specifically kefir or kimchi or genuine lacto-fermented sauerkraut. Here is the discovery that is reshaping everything we thought we knew about aging. For decades, longevity research focused on genes, on hormones, on antioxidants. But in the last 10 years, an explosion of research has revealed something revolutionary. The aging of your body is deeply connected to the health of your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms living in your digestive tract. Here is the mechanism. A healthy, diverse microbiome produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, propionate, and acetate. These compounds are not just local gut health factors. They travel through the bloodstream and directly influence gene expression throughout the body, activating anti-inflammatory pathways, supporting mitochondrial function, and critically, maintaining the integrity of the gut lining itself. When the gut lining weakens, a condition called intestinal permeability or leaky gut occurs. Bacterial fragments called lipopolysaccharides escape through the gut wall into the bloodstream, triggering a massive systemic inflammatory response. This is now understood to be one of the primary drivers of chronic low-grade inflammation, the same silent fire we discussed at the beginning of this video. Research published in Cell Host and Microbe found that reduced microbiome diversity is consistently associated with accelerated biological aging and is directly correlated with increasing frailty in adults over 65. Now here is the extraordinary intervention. A landmark 2021 study from Stanford University, published in the journal Cell, found that consuming fermented foods daily for 10 weeks produced dramatically greater improvement in microbiome diversity and reduction of inflammatory markers compared to a high-fiber diet alone. Participants consuming fermented foods showed reductions in 19 different inflammatory proteins, including some linked directly to accelerated cellular aging. Kefir is the most accessible starting point. It is a fermented milk drink available in every grocery store, typically near the yogurt, and a single cup contains billions of live probiotic bacteria alongside prebiotic compounds that feed and sustain those bacteria. People who are lactose intolerant often tolerate kefir well because the fermentation process breaks down most of the lactose. For those who prefer a plant-based option, kimchi and lacto-fermented sauerkraut, found in the refrigerated section, not the shelf-stable canned version, contain comparable probiotic activity. The critical distinction is this. Most yogurts and many probiotic supplements contain 5 to 10 bacterial strains. Fermented foods like kefir typically contain 20 to 60 strains, and the biodiversity appears to be as important as the quantity. Studies from the Human Microbiome Project found that microbiome diversity is one of the strongest independent predictors of healthy aging. Start with half a cup of kefir or a quarter cup of kimchi or sauerkraut daily. Introduce slowly over 2 to 3 weeks to allow your gut to adjust. The research suggests meaningful microbiome shifts can be detected within 3 to 4 weeks of consistent daily consumption. Pro tip that most people miss completely: timing matters significantly for fermented foods. Consuming them at the beginning of a meal, before the food that follows, maximizes the survival of live bacteria through the acidic stomach environment compared to consuming them on their own or after eating. I want to share one final story with you. I remember Margaret, a 69-year-old retired librarian from Minneapolis. She came to my office after 3 consecutive winters where she had suffered what she called endless infections, a cold that turned into bronchitis, a stomach bug that hospitalized her, and chronic sinusitis that antibiotics barely touched. She felt, in her words, like her body had lost its ability to fight back. She was exhausted, puffy, and genuinely frightened. Beyond the obvious immune concerns, her inflammatory blood work was alarming. Her interleukin-6 levels, a key marker of systemic inflammation, were nearly 3 times the optimal range. I introduced her to a daily fermented food protocol: a cup of plain kefir every morning before breakfast, a small serving of kimchi with her main meal. Nothing else changed in her diet initially. 6 weeks later, she called my office before her follow-up appointment just to report in. She had not been sick once. Her energy was returning. She described waking up for the first time in years feeling what she called genuinely rested. At her 12-week follow-up, her interleukin-6 levels had dropped by 41%. Her physician noted improvements across multiple inflammatory markers. She had tears in her eyes when she told me, "Doctor, I feel like my immune system remembered how to work. I feel protected again." This was not magic. This was her gut microbiome rebuilding its capacity to regulate inflammation, support immunity, and generate the anti-inflammatory compounds her body had been starving for. and you can experience exactly the same thing. Now let me give you the exact practical action plan to put all of this together starting tomorrow. Here is how to implement everything you have heard today. Starting tomorrow morning, with your breakfast, swap any vegetable or canola oil for extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil. Take a hard look at your beverages. Replace every sweetened drink with water, unsweetened sparkling water, herbal tea, or black coffee. Begin with half a cup of plain kefir before your first meal. Add frozen or fresh blueberries to your breakfast, 1 cup, with a small handful of walnuts. Within 3 days, you will likely notice improved energy and reduced afternoon fatigue as blood sugar regulation begins to stabilize. Within 1 week, many people report better sleep quality and less joint stiffness in the morning. Within 2 weeks, you will likely notice improved mental clarity, reduced brain fog, and better mood consistency. Within 1 month, your gut microbiome will have measurably shifted toward greater diversity. Your inflammatory markers, if tested, will begin trending down. Your mitochondria will have the raw materials to regenerate more efficiently. Plan 2 to 3 fatty fish meals per week, ideally replacing red meat or processed protein sources. Rotate between salmon, sardines, and mackerel for the broadest nutritional spectrum. And here are the critical mistakes to avoid. First, do not make all these changes in the same 24-hour period. Introduce one new food at a time over the first week so your gut can adjust and so you can identify clearly what is working. Second, do not buy shelf-stable sauerkraut in a can. It is pasteurized and contains no live cultures. You need refrigerated, raw, lacto-fermented versions. Third, do not assume more is better with fermented foods. Start small. A sudden large introduction of probiotics can cause temporary bloating. Gradual introduction leads to lasting change. And remember this above all else, you are not broken. Your diet has simply been missing what your body needs. This is not about willpower or discipline. It is about information, and now you have it. Your body after 45 is not weaker because of age alone. It is weaker because of information it has been denied. Change what you put into it, and it will begin to change what it gives back to you. So, to bring everything together, we have covered the 3 dietary mistakes that are accelerating your aging right now: excess vegetable oils driving cellular inflammation, refined carbohydrates destroying mitochondrial function and glycating your tissues, and sugar-sweetened beverages aging your cells at the DNA level. And we have covered the 3 foods that begin to reverse that damage: blueberries activating your body's internal antioxidant system, fatty fish rebuilding your cell membranes and resolving inflammation, and fermented foods, particularly kefir, rebuilding the gut microbiome diversity that controls the inflammatory signals aging your body from within. Each of these has powerful independent evidence, but when you combine all 6 shifts together, you are addressing aging from multiple directions simultaneously. The compounding effect is real, and the research supports it strongly. Here is my challenge to you. Commit to these changes for 30 days. Just 30 days. Keep a simple journal. Write down your energy levels, your sleep quality, your joint comfort, your mental clarity. Notice what shifts. Your body has a remarkable capacity for regeneration at any age. It simply needs to be given the right raw materials. Age does not stop your body from healing. It simply reminds you to care for it with greater intention. If this video helped you, please hit that like button. Subscribe so you do not miss the practical health guidance we share every week for adults over 45, 55, 65, and beyond. And please share this video. Think about one person in your life who needs to hear this. It takes 10 seconds to share, and it might genuinely change the direction of their health. And now I want to hear from you. Which of these 6 changes will you start with? Will it be swapping the cooking oil, adding kefir, starting with blueberries? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to see to take their first step. Because remember, aging is not your enemy. Misinformation is. And now you are armed with something better. Take care of yourself.